Everybody, Dr. Joe's in the house on this Wednesday evening. Hope all is well wherever you are. And let's start this great live session I think we have scheduled for today. So let me make sure that I think Instagram's on the line. So we're good to go. So let me put this up. Okay. I hope you're doing well wherever you're tuning in from. And so today we're going to talk about a topic which a lot of people there's a lot of misconceptions about, which is the infamous Section 8 inspection. And it's a topic which a lot of people are afraid about. They've heard good things, bad things, ugly things. And so I want to try to debunk a lot of the myths and stereotypes associated with this fact. And I think it's a very important topic, because the bottom line is that if you are going to participate in the Section 8 program, one of the requirements is that they have to do an inspection to make sure that your house or apartment passes what they call the Housing Quality Standards, or HQS. And if which is primarily looking at health and safety issues. And if it passes, you're good to go. If it doesn't pass, then you have failed. You are given an opportunity to fix the problems, after which you are terminated, or payments are stopped, or whatever it is. And then once the tenant has moved in, then they have these inspections, once every year, every 2 years, depending on what jurisdiction you're in. So it's a very important topic, and I thought I'll spend some time talking about it today. So stop failing the Section 8 inspection survival guide. So let's get on with this thing. So anyway, I suppose let me get everything lined up here. Okay. So I suppose a lot of people have misconceptions, as I said, about this and what's going to happen if they don't pass. So if you own the Section 8 property, you already know that this can be a stressful thing. This Housing Quality Standard, or HQ inspections, are something that's required as being a participant in the program. So for many landlords, inspection day feels like a high stakes game, one in which even a minor overlooked issue can freeze your payment. If you fail their inspection, there's a possibility as time goes by, your payments could be what they call abated, which means stopped. So you don't want to fail the inspections if you don't have to. I'll talk about that later on. So they can freeze your payments, and also they can frustrate your tenants, and also it can take a big hit on your reputation. But the truth is, the inspections really aren't that unpredictable. They are predictable. They follow a clear set of standards and expectations, and that if you overlook them or sort of ignore them, then it could be a problem. But if you understand it, it can be a roadmap, in my opinion, to stable cash flow and hassle-free compliance. So this live stream today, we're going to kind of talk about my experiences as a real estate investor participating in the Section 8 program. Talk about some of my experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly. Yes, I failed inspections before, and it's pretty common, in fact, to fail inspections. It's not unusual. What's unusual is, if you fail it again and again and they terminate or stop your payments, that's unusual, but it does happen. And so I'll share with you some of my lessons learned, and also hopefully provide you with some of the systems. I won't call it foolproof, but some of the lessons learned, best practices, so that hopefully you can pass your inspections every time around. So these lessons I'm going to talk about today aren't theoretical. It's not about theory. This is real world. And I'm going to share some of the tactics, habits, and checklists that I've used and other successful landlords or investors have used to avoid costly surprises, and also to maintain their properties in a constant state of readiness. So whether you're new to Section 8 or a seasoned pro looking to tighten your processes, you'll find, I think, practical strategies here today to reduce, hopefully, the stress and protect your income stream. So, so from understanding why so many landlords fail, I think it'll give you a good idea of what you need to do to prepare, document, and communicate effectively, so that way you pass your inspections and you can really master the HQS requirements and build a stronger business in the process as well. So as usual, I'm breaking it into 6 parts, 1 through 6. And I'll wrap up with a conclusion. And as always, if you got some questions, please put them in the chat box, and I'll get to them, in about 20, 25 minutes. Anything to do with real estate, investing, Section 8 landlording, whatever, looking for a deal's collapsed, whatever your situation, anything to do with real estate, feel free to put your questions in the chat box, and I'll get to them shortly. Likewise, if you want to book a one-on-one with me where we can do a deep dive into your specific situation, again, regardless of the topic in real estate, you can book a one-on-one with me. Go to my website, www.joeasamoah.com, www.joeasamoah.com, and you can register and sign up for a one-on-one with me. So as I said, we're going to break into 6 parts. So number 1, or part 1, is really the basics, understanding housing quality standards, inspections, HQS inspections. I suppose the question is, why do so many landlords fail inspections, even when they think their property is quote unquote ready? There are surprises. You think your place is ready. You kind of walked around, it looks good to you. And so you fill in the paperwork for Section 8, and the inspector comes, and then for whatever reason, you are failed. You failed. So many landlords approach inspections with a false sense of security, assuming that if the property looks clean, it's functional at a glance, then it must be compliant. That's what some people think, and that is not always the case. However, HQS inspections are designed really to uncover not just the obvious hazards, but also some of the hidden risks that may not be apparent without a meticulous walkthrough of the unit. So details like outlet covers, you can fail if you don't have outlet covers. Missing window screens, that's a good one. A tiny leak under the kitchen sink, any of those things. A window that doesn't shut properly, a door that doesn't lock properly. These are reasons why you could fail. If there's a tripping hazard, you could fail the inspection, or and so on. So the reality, though, is that inspectors are trained to look for both safety issues and also evidence of ongoing neglect. That's what they train to do. And if a unit has multiple small issues, it really does signal to them that, you're kind of, you don't know what you're doing. And also it tells them that you as a landlord are not proactive, and you're not addressing maintenance issues overall. Okay. So one investor recalled, failing because there was a missing stove knob, or a cracked bathroom tile. These things are really, in the scheme of things, pretty minor, but they are reasons why you could fail. And it is what it is. If you fail, you fail. So if you do fail, as I said before, it depends on which housing authority you're in. It could be, a costly, time-consuming effort. So, so what's it called? It could be a month before you get a re-inspection. And some places, they're so short-staffed, it could be 6 weeks. And if you're not careful, you could be abated during that time. Your payments could stop. So successful investors, have shared some of the strategies of passing and failing. And in my opinion, it comes down to mindset. It comes down to your approach. Instead of seeing the HQS checklist as an afterthought, you should try to integrate it into your regular maintenance routine. We understand that compliance isn't a once a year or twice a year or once every 2 year event, but it's really an ongoing commitment to quality and safety. If you're going to participate in this program, if you're going to be successful, you have to commit to providing safety and quality conditions for your tenants. Because if you do, you have that mindset, then you should be okay. If you just want to get over, you don't care about tenants, as long as you get your rent, you're happy, then you could have some problems later on. So this proactive approach not only keeps your unit in better condition, but also builds trust with inspectors and tenants alike. So what are some of the action items associated with this? Print out your local housing authority checklist, HQS checklist, and carry it with you during the property visits. Schedule regular self-inspections of a unit to make sure everything's okay, and train your maintenance crew to look for HQS issues whenever they enter a unit. These things that you can do. And let's go on to part 2, which is the hidden cost. Okay, so you failed. So what's the big deal, you may say? Well, there are hidden costs of failing inspections. And I suppose the question is, I suppose the question is, what happens to your cash flow, your tenants, and your business when you fail the inspection? What happens? What's the big deal? Well, the big deal is failing the inspection isn't just an inconvenience. It can create a domino effect, of financial and operational problems. It can. The most immediate consequence is that if you fail, especially if you fail twice on what they call the reinspection, then they could freeze your payments. Your payments could stop, and you could have your payments start just for minor stuff like a cracked window, a missing screen, and that's what they call abated. So your payments are abated. So, for example, I've heard stories whereby a $30, $50 repair has turned into a $4,000 cash flow problem. In fact, I recall I had an abatement where, in this case, there was some peeling paint at the property, and I disputed that with the inspector. And we're going backwards and forwards. I said, well, the house was inspected. It's not lead-based. And they said, well, it's peeling paint. It's built before 1978. Therefore, you have to prove to us. So I had to go out there and pay for a lead clearance, pay $350 for somebody to come out and, pay for that, get the clearance, get the certificate, and then they accepted it. And then they reinstated my payments. So, it's you can win the battle, but lose the war. You may think you're right, but at the end of the day, the housing authority are the ones that holds the cards. And so if you're going to play in this game, you better know how to understand what they look for and comply if you can. So really, for tenants who are relying on vouchers, a failed inspection can really feel like it's a source of instability and uncertainty for them, because if you don't, at least in the DC area, if you fail your inspection and they abate the payments, they could turn around and tell the tenant, to go find somewhere else to go. And they'll issue them with a voucher, and the tenants may leave, which means that now you have an issue of not just missed payments, but also you have a vacancy, and a turnover cost that you're going to have to deal with. So it can be very disruptive. And the tenants obviously lose faith in you as a landlord, and they'll start looking for other options if you're continuously failing inspections. Over time, your reputation gets a hit, and it really does impact your bottom line in terms of trying to retain tenants. Finally, failing inspection increases scrutiny. If you're known as a slumlord, if you're known as a person who doesn't keep their property up, you'll get a reputation. And next thing you know, you get flagged. And people, when the inspectors come around, you have a reputation, and they start looking for stuff. And if there's a gray area, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. Your reputation is going to follow you around. So, it's just not worth it. So take care of any failed items. Take these inspections seriously. And if you can, you're going to protect your profits. You're going to protect your cash flow. And it's going to give you better peace of mind. Okay, so what are some action items in terms of the cost of failing? Well, communicate with tenants before inspections to set expectations and reduce anxiety. That's something you can do. Also, keep records of every inspection result to identify recurrent issues early. Okay, so that's number 2. Moving on to number 3, which is preparing your property inside and out for the inspection. So I've talked about what is the inspection. I've talked about the hidden cost. And now what I'm going to talk about is preparing your property inside and out, because they do inspections on the exterior and also on the interior. So protecting you, preparing for the inspection. I suppose the question is, how can you set your property up to pass before even the inspector arrives? What can you do to prepare your property such that you significantly increase the chances of passing the inspection? Well, preparation really is the single most effective strategy to avoid failed inspections. The most successful investors, in my opinion, treat every property turnover as an opportunity to bring the unit into inspection-ready condition, because you're going to have an inspection regardless of whether an official inspection is scheduled or not. So in other words, whenever there's turnover, you prepare, you go through the checklist to make sure the house is ready, whether you're going to have an inspection or not. This means addressing all known repairs, verifying compliance terms, and also double checking that every room in the house meets HQS standards. So I recall that speaking to another landlord, they even do mock inspections on a regular basis at their properties, just in case. And, she uses the same checklist that inspectors use, noting all the issues, if there are any issues, and photographing every room. Okay, so what this does, it creates accountability, and it's easier for her and also for you and I to spot small problems before they become big ones. So also she this is kind of interesting. What she did was to keep a kit of frequently needed supplies, things that the inspectors commonly fail people for, things like smoke detectors and outlet covers, faucet aerators. These kind of things, she just keeps it ready. So if there's an inspection done and for whatever reason she gets flagged by an inspector, she has some of these supplies available so she can correct them immediately. So successful investors also invest in preventative maintenance. Preventative maintenance. So instead of waiting for tenants to report problems, they schedule, regularly or quarterly checkups, walkthroughs, to inspect things like the plumbing, the electrical, the heating system, and structural components of the house. So this kind of proactive approach not only keeps the property in compliance, but also extends the life of major systems and reduces emergency repair costs. Okay, so what are some of the action items associated with that? Schedule a mock inspection 7 to 10 days before the actual official inspection. Keep a stock of common replacement parts to fix issues quickly, and also create a maintenance calendar to track preventative upkeep. Okay, so we're halfway through. So as usual, if you've got any questions, please put them in the chat box, and I will try to get them in about 10 minutes or so. Anything to do with real estate, put them in there, and I'll give you my best shot trying to provide my thoughts based on my nearly over 35 years worth of experiences. And also, if you got an issue that does require more of a deep dive, you can always book a one-on-one session with me. I've had one yesterday. I got one tomorrow, and we can do a one-on-one. We can do a deep dive into a problem, any problems that you have, and believe me, it is worth it. Not just because I'm, it's with me. It's just that every session I've had, people have come away with ideas, action plans, and a better perspective on than what they came in with. Okay, moving right along to number 4. So again, number 1, 2, and 3. So what I've done today so far is talked about what HQS is, housing quality standard inspections. I talked about the cost, the hidden cost of failing the inspections. I also talked about preparing your property inside and outside, interior and exterior, prior to the inspection. So what I'm going to talk about now is communicating with inspectors. And I suppose the question is, how do you build a relationship of respect and professionalism with your inspector? Communication is really important. At the end of the day, these inspectors are human beings, and like all human beings, you tend to get further if you have a established rapport with others. And inspectors especially respect and professionalism. I'm not saying sucking up to them. No, I'm just saying just have respect, be courteous. Don't get riled up and argumentative and adversarial with these folks. It doesn't do you any good, to tell you the truth. So your relationship with the inspector can set the tone for the entire inspection process. Okay, inspectors are human beings. They appreciate professionalism. They really do appreciate when somebody is actually prepared for the inspection. And they also like a collaborative attitude, an attitude of sort of, let's work together. Let's see, what can I do to address this issue that you've identified, as opposed to just arguing with them. So investors who consistently pass inspections, often attribute this, or at least this part of success, to showing up prepared and respectful, rather than defensive and dismissive. Okay, so one investor shared with me simply greeting the inspector by name. Hey, Inspector so-and-so. Having all the necessary documentation ready, and just generally prepare can also increase the better experience. So when deficiencies are found, and they will be found, I typically ask for clarification rather than arguing. And I think that over this long term, this professional approach, it does build trust, and it can make the inspections less adversarial. I've heard that other landlords, sort of, with that respectful tone, if there's a gray area, sometimes just because you're just a decent person, you get the kind of the benefit of the doubt. If, for example, they may give you, instead of failing you, they may turn around and say, well, okay, I'll give you, a few more hours, or I'll give you another day. I'll come back tomorrow, and therefore just take care of it, and then we should be good to go. So communication doesn't just end after the inspection. Following up with the inspectors, I think, is sometimes a good idea to confirm that you understand the failed items, and also to communicate with them, letting them know when if there's any inspections, like items that you've been flagged for, are completed. Kind of thanking them for the time, and also just generally, reinforcing that you're here to make their job easier. You commit to compliance, and and you're not trying to get over on them. So what are some of the action items associated with communications? Be present for inspections if you can. Obviously, that may not be possible. I don't attend most of my inspections, to tell the truth, but I do prepare my tenants so that they are ready for the inspection. Someone who needs to be there for the inspection, otherwise you're going to fail. And if you fail the first time around, if no one shows up for the second time around, then you could be in big trouble. Listen to feedback without interrupting or disputing the findings, and also follow up in writing after repairs to confirm issues have been resolved. And number 5, what are some of the common pitfalls and how to avoid them with the inspection? What are some of the common pitfalls, and how can you avoid some of these things? I suppose the question is, what are the most frequent reasons landlords fail inspections, and how can you hopefully avoid or sidestep them? Well, while every property is different, many landlords fail inspections for the same predictable reasons. After a while, they fail for the most common things. Common pitfalls that I'm familiar with and I fail for are missing smoke detectors, non-functioning smoke detectors, peeling paint, damaged flooring, tripping hazards, improper water temperatures, stove burners not working, the appliances aren't working, the refrigerator is not working, or whatever it is. I mean, that's common items that are regularly failed. Okay, so it's in your interest to understand what those are, and make sure you try to address them before the inspections. So they may seem minor to you. What's the big deal about one of the burners not working? But that's a failed item, and so fix it before, hopefully. Therefore, it wouldn't be an issue. I think that as I said, I failed for silly stuff. An outlet cover missing. Okay, one of the burners not working properly. What's the ridiculous things? The door doesn't close properly. A window doesn't close properly. A missing screen on the window. Crazy. So these stories highlights the importance of detail, because every detail matters. And you got to have systems in place to catch these small problems early and hopefully repair them, in due course. So a critical lesson from successful investors is to assume nothing. Assume that you're going to get an inspector from hell. You're going to have an inspector who's nitpicky. And, so if you assume that, and if you get one of those, at least you're ready. If you assume that they're going to be great and they're not, then, you got a problem. So don't rely, just on the tenant, but you have to do some, do things, from your perspective beforehand. Otherwise, you could fail, and you could miss some payments. So what do? We check regularly, the units regularly. We document, and also we never underestimate the impact of small repairs. So finally, number 6 is leveraging technology and documentation. Leveraging technology and document. I am really into technology now. I'm getting really into it. I love it. And so how can you use technology to enhance, to streamline the process? Okay, so the question is, how can technology and clear records help you pass inspections more consistently? Well, in today's rental business, technology is the landlord's best friend. From digital checklists to cloud storage, I think investors who are using these tech tools to track compliance and maintain accurate records are definitely one step ahead. These systems create transparency, streamline communications, and make it easy to demonstrate due diligence when issues arise. Okay, so one landlord uses mobile apps. There are mobile apps for inspections. I use one. They allow you to capture photographs, logs of every unit during inspection. They can put notes. You can put notes in there. You can put timestamps in there. And, so you can document the property over a period of time. And, the thing I like is that you can capture videos, you can capture photographs, and also documentation is not just for emergencies, but also I think it's accountability as well. So it's a good thing to kind of use technology if you can to help you with this process. And that, my friends, is it. So I'm going to kind of wrap it up with a conclusion. Mastering Section 8 isn't an accident. It's a commitment to preparation, professionalism, and consistency, in my opinion. There are investors who I've shared some stories today, what's happened to me in the past and also others. And we've learned the hard way that failing to plan leads to planning to fail. Okay, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. But successful landlords also proved that clear systems, good communications, and a proactive mindset, if they have that, then passing inspections can be routine rather than stressful. And every inspection is an opportunity to show tenants, inspectors, and yourself that you're taking this thing seriously. Okay, because the habits you have today will pay dividends in the form of steady rent payments, tenant satisfaction, and a rock solid reputation. No landlord enjoys the pressure of inspection day. I don't enjoy it. And in fact, I just contacted my tenant today. We just passed an inspection that was done yesterday. So if you kind of build rapport with your tenants, they can work with the inspectors and with you to get through these things. Okay, but you've got to have the right approach. And you can turn that pressure to predictable, repeatable processes that protect your business, and so on. So these are some of the lessons learned I've learned in terms of inspections. They're not that terribly bad if you have the right mindset, right approach. But the bottom line is that failing inspections, can be devastating to your cash flow, especially if your payments are stopped. So take an attitude whereby you are intent to pass these inspections and put the right systems in place, and you probably will pass. That, my friends, is it. So if you've got any questions, please put it in the chat box, and I'll get to them shortly. And likewise, if you want to send me an email, you can shoot me an email. My email address is joe@joeasamoah.com, joe@joeasamoah.com. And if you want to book a one-on-one with me, and by all means, go to my website, www.joeasamoah.com, www.joeasamoah.com, and you can book a one-on-one with me. Just press the button for Ask Dr. Joe, And let's get down to Q&A. So if you got some questions, please put in the chat box, and I will definitely get to them starting right now. So put them in the chat box. Let's see what we got today. We got Dow2. Hey, Dow2, hope you're doing well. Dow2 is always here. Greetings from Phoenix, Arizona. It is burning hot here, so I'm sure it's burning hot where you are in sunny Phoenix. Nesta. Section 8 has put my property on their website listings 2 weeks ago, but I haven't received any calls. I thought my phone, oh boy, I thought my phone would be ringing off the hook saying that people need assistance. No, that is not the case, and that's what you're finding out. So let's keep going. I'm getting more calls from the post. I'm getting more calls from the post I put on Zillow than the Section 8 website, which is weird. No, it's not weird. Okay, my property is located in St. Louis. They have it set up where you have to get 2 inspections. First the city inspections, then from the Section 8. Okay, let's see if I can take these questions one at a time. I'll get through all your questions, Nesta. So again, if you got some questions, please put them in the chat box. Let me see what I can do. Okay, I'm going to hit them one by one, Nesta. So Nesta lives in St. Louis, Missouri, and he has a property that he's put on the that he has for rent. And in his area, the housing authority, he says, has put his property on their list. Okay, and it's been 2 weeks, and he hasn't received any calls from that list. And he thought that his phone would be ringing off the hook. Well, my friend, that is, I think you're realizing that you can't put all your eggs in the basket of the housing authority. I don't advertise with them. I go to Zillow, I go to affordablehousing.com, and there are some other niche websites where I put my ads in. Okay, and depending on your area, depending on the desirability of your property, the location, the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, and so forth, that will determine how many calls you're going to get. So what it's telling me, Nestor, is that you're not, you shouldn't be solely relying on the housing authority where you are to get all your calls. You have to have a plan B, a plan C, plan D, and so forth. Okay, so let's keep going to the next one. I'm getting a call. I'm getting more calls from the post I put on Zillow than the Section 8 website, which is weird. It's not weird at all. I get most of my calls from Zillow as opposed to from the other platforms. Zillow, I used to do Craigslist. I don't get any calls from them. I still advertise on affordable housing, but most of my calls come from Zillow. So what you're experiencing, Nestor, is not unusual. I get most of my calls are from Zillow also. So it's nothing weird there. Let's keep going. My property is located in St. Louis. Okay, they have it set up where you have to get 2 inspections, first from the city inspections, and then from Section 8. That's not unusual. Again, what happens is that the city, since you're in St. Louis, you probably have to get licensed as a landlord, as a as a landlord. I don't know the rules in St. Louis, but most jurisdictions require you to be licensed as a landlord, as a homeowner, as a housing provider. And as part of that, in addition to filling out the paperwork, they usually require that you have an inspection. And that's part of the process in order to get a license. So that license is issued by the city. It's got nothing to do with Section 8. So it just gives you the authority to rent your unit in the city that you're in. Okay. Now, if you rent to a voucher holder, then Section 8 or the housing authority will say, well, it's well and good that the city has been here and inspected your unit, but we want to make sure that your unit passes HUD standards. since this is a HUD-based program or HUD-funded program. So you're going to have to pass the HUD, which is called the Housing Quality Standards, HQS inspection, regardless of where you are. So that is the reason why you have to have a second inspection. One is for the city, and one is for the Section 8 program that you're in. Let's keep moving. However, Section 8 told me if I pass the city inspection, normally I'll pass the Section 8. Yes, but not always. But they do require me to pass the city first. Yeah, so what it means, again, is that they expect you to be compliant with the city that you're in. And so they're requiring that you do an inspection with the city first and pass it. And many times, if you can pass the city inspection, you should be able to pass the Section 8. Not always, but there's a pretty good chance. And there's a chance that the city looks for different things than the Section 8. For example, in Washington, D.C., the city requires that I have a I have got to have a fire extinguisher in the unit. Okay, that's required by the city in order for me to get a license. However, Section 8 doesn't require me to have a fire extinguisher in the unit. So that's just one example as to the difference. Okay, so but the bottom line is that you need your city license, and then you also need to conduct and complete and pass the Section 8 inspection as well. Okay, let's have a look. I'm trying to get through all your questions, Nesta. You kind of keep me on my toes here. During renovations, I got to fancy and changed all the outlets to 3-prong outlets. Okay, big mistake. I failed the inspection due to some outlets not being grounded. Yes. Oh boy, Nesta. Okay, so what you should do if you're going to go from 2-prong to 3, because you should go a bit more, there's a couple of things that are going to happen. Is you want to make sure that the circuits can handle the load, and you got to make sure that you got to be grounded. And so what I do before the inspector shows up, I have the outlet testers where you can plug into the outlet and a couple of lights or 2 or 3 lights come on. And so what it means is that it'll tell you if the circuit is wired correctly, if there is a lack of ground or whatever it is. So I go through every outlet in the house and check every outlet with that outlet tester. And that's what you probably didn't do, Nesta, because if you did, you'd have found out that the outlets were not grounded. And then you could have had your electrician or your handyman correct the problem before the inspector could. Because some inspectors will, in fact, most inspectors will go through and test some of the outlets, if not all the outlets. And if it's not grounded properly, then you could fail. So that's what happened here. So, I'm not saying you shouldn't have rehabbed, but if you did rehab, then you want to make sure that all the circuits and the electrical outlets are correctly polarized. Okay, I think that got all your questions through, Nesta. If I didn't address anything, Nesta, feel free to circle back and clarify anything if necessary. Ty, is there a way to get a pre-inspection before the actual inspection to make sure everything is in order, so you don't fail the inspection for just one thing and then have to wait? I don't know if this city, it depends where you are, Ty, if they do pre-inspections or not. I do pre-inspections, but I inspect. I don't need the city or somebody else to do the pre-inspection for me. I do it, or you can have your handyman if you don't feel comfortable. Go through the list room by room to check everything beforehand. as you said before, to make sure everything is in order. So that way, when the real inspector comes, then hopefully he's not going to fail for anything. It's just like when you're selling a house, you know the buyer is going to have a home inspection for the most part, especially in this market. So if that's the case, then it may be a good idea to have somebody go through the house before the home inspector, the buyer's home inspector, shows up. And that way, if there's anything obvious, you can correct them. And rather than the buyer's inspector finds out that these things are wrong, and then if it's real bad, they could spook the buyer, so the buyer runs away, or they could use it as a negotiation tool. There's all these things wrong with the house, therefore they want a discount. So essentially the same thing, Ty. Go through the house beforehand, either yourself if you feel comfortable, and or have a handyman or a contractor or somebody who can go through the list and check the condition of the property beforehand. Okay, good questions. This is from Nestor. I also failed for not having an expansion tank on a hot water heater. Yes, but I heard it's different in every state. I don't think, I could be wrong here, I don't think you need an expansion tank for Section 8 housing quality standards. You may need it for the city, okay, for their building codes, but I don't think you need it for Section 8. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. I've never failed for not having an expansion tank for Section 8, but I've had the city fail a unit because it didn't have an expansion tank. Nowadays, most hot water heaters require an expansion tank. Again, there's no need to go through the details of why, but just know that that's the case now for standard building codes. So, yeah. So, what's it called? Yeah. So that could be the reason why you failed. Maybe you failed the city, but not the Section 8. Feel free to clarify if I missed something out, Nestor. Okay, oh my God, 115 degrees in Phoenix. Oh my God, you have my condolences. 115, that is one hell of a temperature. My second ever voucher holder tenant moved in 7/1/2020. Oh, congratulations, Dao2. Tenant number 2. I hope that everything went out okay, and hope that there was no problems. I noticed the same thing as Nestor. I exclusively advertised on the voucher holder website and got fewer contacts than usual. I avoided advertising on other platforms because I was trying to focus on voucher holders. I thought if I advertise on the website, I typically advertise for non-voucher holders. I would get a lot of non-voucher holders like normal, and would choose as non-voucher. Okay. Non-voucher holders. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think I follow what you're saying. You're saying that you think that it may be a good idea to advertise on the housing system because the people that look on their list have vouchers and you're looking for a voucher holder. Well, that could be, but the bottom line is that there are more people that go to Zillow. That's the platform of choice for a lot of tenants, and so you need to be there, and more people are there. It's just like trying to sell a house and not put it on the MLS. I mean, the MLS is where people go to buy houses, so you need to be on that platform. Likewise, Zillow is I think one of the largest platforms for rentals, so you need to be there. And what I do when I advertise in Zillow, I just say Section 8 welcome. Section 8 welcome. Okay. So it gives those people who have vouchers, the message that I'm willing to consider renting to voucher holders. So you just let them know I'm welcome. But there's a lot more to it. Again, it could be that you're advertising. I don't know how you do it. Maybe the verbiage that you use. My advertisements, I talk to my prospective buyer. I know who they are, what they're looking for, so I put my wording in such a way it's going to appeal to them. I think I've got that down pat now in terms of marketing, and so I appeal to them in terms of the content. I include photographs, I include videos, I stage my home, and I let them know that I'm a good landlord. I say in my ads, if you're a person that's clean, quiet, responsible, and looking for the world's greatest landlord, then look no further. How about that? That's what I say, because a lot of these voucher holders are looking for quality landlords. They're tired of the slumlords. And so I let them know that I welcome Section 8. I let them know that I'm a good landlord. I'm not a slumlord. Okay. So that's been my finding. I always advertise in Zillow, and then if necessary, advertise in other platforms as well. Okay, down to, I had a tour set for 6/30/2025, but the person was a no-show. But she contacted me today, asked if she could tour the house on 7/3. So she scheduled the tour Thursday at 10 a.m. Well, I don't do that. I just, I have open houses 6 p.m. every day. And if you call me on Wednesday, let's just say Thursday, I let them know, hey, I'm going to be there tonight at 6 o'clock. If they call me on Friday, hey, look, I'm going to be there tonight at 6 o'clock. So the idea is that you want to strike when the iron's hot, as they say. If somebody is looking, you want them to see your house today, not next Saturday, not on Saturday or Sunday, when it's convenient for you. Because if you don't show the house today, they are still going to be looking. And by the time Saturday comes, they may have already found something else. So they're not going to show up at your property. So yeah, I do open houses every day. I'm very aggressive when it's time to rent my places. And I think I've got it figured out how it works. Again, if you want to do a deep dive, you can always book a one-on-one with me, and I'll share with you some of my sort of ideas, cutting-edge strategies that hopefully will help you attract not just a tenant, but a quality tenant. There's a system for that, and I think I understand it. I probably should have advertised on the websites I typically advertise on, but I don't know how I would not choose a non-voucher. Yeah, again, just tell them that you welcome Section 8. And, sometimes a non-voucher holder may be better. It's not, it just depends on you. Where we are, the rents for Section 8 is slightly higher than, it can be slightly higher than for market renters. Sometimes it's lower, sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's higher. So, if market rent is lower than Section 8, then if you advertise the Section 8 price, then you're probably not going to get too many market renters because, it doesn't make any sense for them to go to your place if they can get a place similar, cheaper, and so on. So anyway, the bottom line is that you want to have your house exposed to as many people as possible, because if you can, then there's a good chance that you're going to get your place rented. Again, if you got some questions, please put in the chat box. It's 7:51. I got a couple more minutes left. I'm going to wrap it up for the day. So down to handle that scenario where you have how do you handle the scenario where you have a qualified non-voucher holder? Okay, so then just showing the house is step one. They have to fill an application. That's step two. And I go through the application with them while they're there. I then verify the information to make sure everything's okay. I then start screening landlord's income credit, and I also do a home visit. So I do all of that before I decide who to rent to. Okay, so, And that's what I do. But if you have a non-voucher holder who's the best, then that's okay. We'll rent to the non-voucher holder. But I've just personally found that whenever I rent a place and the way I market, I tend to get voucher holders. And so now it's a matter of which of the applicants are the best. And that's why I like to call the landlords. I like to income credit and also do a home visit. So for example, I'm helping another student of mine who got a house here in Washington, D.C. It's a 6-bedroom. So yesterday, in fact, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I've been showing it. I've been helping them show it. And we've got some really, really, really strong candidates who are interested in this house. The problem we're going to have is we're going to have to disappoint. In fact, we stopped showing the house after 3 days. The problem is we're going to have a problem deciding who gets it and who we're going to disappoint. And that's a good position to be in, is where when you can have many applications rather than having a product where people don't want to live there, and then you get desperate because you're not getting any calls. So it's not always just the price. It's the messaging. I always target Section 8, so my advertising is geared towards them. I say words close to shopping, recreation, transportation, for example, because that's important. Especially if you don't have reliable transportation, it's important that you let them know that you're a great landlord, because a lot of these families are used to living with renting from crappy landlords, slumlords. So, I let them know I'm a quality landlord. I let them know that my goal is to be the best landlord they've ever had. Okay, that's music to the ears for these voucher holders. I do these things in the ad. I say these things in the ad. I stage my home. I have professional grade photographs. I have videos, links, all those things to differentiate myself from my competition. So if there's a small number of available tenants, then I have a chance of getting one of those people, as opposed to crossing my fingers and hope for the best. I've tried that. That doesn't work. It's got to be a calculated strategy, Dow2 and Nesta, to get these tier 1 tenants. And the tier 1 tenants are there. They are around. It's just that if you don't differentiate yourself, they're going to go with somebody else, not you. Okay. Hi. Katie. Hey, Katie. Do you offer incentives to your current tenants for referring new tenants to you? Yeah, I give them a couple $100. So if a tenant, again, I do things like every Mother's Day, bouquets of flowers, Christmas presents, and all these kind of different things. So, and when my tenants tell their friends, hey, my landlord got me a bouquet of flowers. Oh, my landlord gave us Christmas presents. Oh, my landlord did this. Their friends say, well, does your landlord have any vacancies? And is your landlord looking for a tenant? And so most of my tenants will not refer a bad tenant to me, because they know the kind of landlord I am. They know the kind of tenant I'm looking for. So they're only going to recommend people who they can vouch for, and which are usually people like them. So I do offer incentives, and $200. It's up to you if that's enough for you. You may want to make it $250 or whatever, but you can encourage. So whenever you have a vacancy, you can let your tenants know that you do have a vacancy. If they know anybody who's looking, then you will offer them a $250 or $200 thank you gesture. And I think that should be well received as well. So any other questions, please put them in now. Otherwise, I'm going to wrap it up for the day. Good sessions today. Good questions. It's about 8 o'clock. As usual, I'm going to wrap it up. If you have any, if you want to shoot me an email, you can shoot me an email at joe@joeasamoah.com, joe@joeasamoah.com. And if you want to book a one-on-one with me, you can go to my website, www.joeasamoah.com, www.joeasamoah.com. You can book a one-on-one. Otherwise, my friends, I will wrap it up for the day. And I will see you hopefully next Wednesday. So everybody have a wonderful July the 4th, and have a safe time, and hope you have good health, wealth, and happiness. I'll see you next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Take care. Bye for now.